I'm Hannah Whitaker. This is my story at 360 Art Project. My first memory of art is probably going to the East Wing of the National Gallery in Washington. It's important at an early age to be exposed to art. I think it fosters a kind of thinking that embraces nuance and ambiguity. It's so hard to define one's first piece because young artists, when they're starting out, make a lot of bad work usually before they kind of find their voice as an artist, and I was certainly no exception. I started out making pretty straight photographs. My process involves shooting with a 4x5 camera with the aid of masks that I make by hand, and each mask is inserted into the camera while I'm shooting, and so only a small part of the film is exposed at any given moment. And so I expose parts of the film repeatedly until the entire sheet of film is exposed and one resulting photograph emerges. It draws from what I think of as digital visual culture. So there's a lot of components that sort of are reminiscent of things that we see on a computer, like clip art, or things that we see on our phones, like emojis, or early graphic software that were comprised of gradients and black and white textures and solid fields of color. So that's what informs the sort of original sketch that I make, that I design in Photoshop, that then determines the look of the piece that results after several weeks of shooting. The body parts that you see, often I use hands, profiles, sometimes feet, often in repetition, and those are photographs of real people. You can really see it, I think, when you see the work in person. You see hairs and veins and all of the signs of a flesh and blood human being. And so while my work looks very collaged, it isn't collaged at all. It is actually literally a photograph shot totally with optical means. I consider it to be 100% photography. It's totally shot through optical means, and I consider myself to be a photographer. Photography has always been a huge part of my life. I surround myself with other photographers, and so I definitely want the work to participate in a broader conversation about photography. These works I drew very loosely from some Roquette's spectacle, some forms that repeat in a way that might be reminiscent of the kick line. I got really interested in the sort of broader symbols that the Roquettes you could think of them as representing, as a kind of celebration of conformity or sort of retrograde femininity, and how those ideas are sort of newly resonant right now. One big interest of mine is forms of automation. I'm really interested in this question of how to automate an artwork, and I got really interested in this question when I started developing the process that I still use today, which is, I think of it as a very kind of automated process. Once I sort of finish the sketch, from that point on, it's really just a matter of kind of following the instructions that the sketch sort of lays out for me. And the physical process has these kind of remarkable similarities to major points in the history of computing in terms of resembling computer punch cards. And so I got really interested in this idea of in this question of can you program a photograph, and to what extent can you consider my works to be kind of the result of the programming of a photograph through this instruction set. I would say the biggest influence on the work is John Cage, in the sense of his reliance on and embracing of chance operations. That way of working, that methodology, the way that it sort of causes the artist, his or herself, to recede in a way in the work in favor of some process that is devised by them but kind of apart from them simultaneously. That has always been really, really interesting to me.